I think the next phase of tokenization is not just about token issuance and coming up with these crazy ideas of what you can bring on chain, but it's what you can actually then do with it.
We have a direct channel to speak to the regulators, the government, and the country that we are sitting in.
True.
And that allows us to work on the challenges that you say.
RWAs and tokenization has technological advantages over the traditional assets.
RWA is very much correlated to the crypto market anyways, right? That's completely how it goes on.
Bitcoin dominates everything, and like altcoin market sucks at the moment. Hey all, it's a big pleasure to be here today. How are you doing, guys? All good? Crypto is pumping right now. Everything is okay on the market. Yeah, my name is Alex Belov. I'm going to moderate this panel about real-world assets. We are going to discuss how it's possible to tokenize MicroStrategy and not just this case. Many interesting cases are going to be discussed. I'm going to introduce myself, and then all other panelists are going to do the same. My name is Alex Belov. I'm in crypto since 2017. I started my way in crypto mining industries, and I started to be a journalist. I write for Forbes. I also have a crypto media named Cointelegram, first media about Telegram open network and Telegram ecosystem in general. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Guys, so let's start.
Hello. Hi. That was a good intro about yourself, man. Yeah, so I'll just introduce you all about myself. I am Singh, and I'm a co-founder of Kaanch Network. And yeah, so basically Kaanch Network is a layer one, like, you know. So in what we saw in the past, the legacy layer ones, these issues and all those things. So we are exactly solving those kind of issues, the scalabilities and the the architecture and the structure of the complete network. So the topic we are into right now is, I guess, we are the one who are fulfilling it better than any other legacy layer ones, because there were problems in those things, and that's how it is. So probably we'll just proceed ahead and we'll talk about it later. All right, great.
Katie, please.
Hi, my name's Katie Evans. I head up business development for a company called Swarm. We are an RWA protocol that enables the tokenization, trading, and verification of real-world assets on chain. So if you're a layer one, or if you're a financial player in the space who's building financial products, you would come to us, take our assets, and then go and compose those assets into financial products that can then be traded, lent against, and stored on chain.
Thank you. Token week's upon us already. Good morning, all. My name is Amit. I work with RACDAO. So you're in the UAE. There are 7 emirates here. I work with another most emirate called Ras Al Khaimah. So the government of Ras Al Khaimah has created a free zone called RAC Digital Asset Oasis. I lead partnerships here. My background, I've been building in the space for the last 5.5, 6 years, traditionally a banker. Last year and a half, I've been with RAC Digital Asset Oasis, and we're creating frameworks for licensing digital asset companies. Bringing them to the UAE, contributing to the GDP of the UAE is our goal, and here to answer and contribute all the builders out there.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm the head of product at Mantle Network. So Mantle Network is part of the Mantle group, and most well known for one of the largest on-chain treasuries in the world, at least $3 billion worth of core assets, where we have good stuff that's a tier 1 type of capital in ETH and stables and many more. I would say we are the 4th largest L2 in the space. We in Ethereum, and we are actually going ZK, so we'll be the largest ZK modular chain in the world. Personally, so I lead on the product, so what that means is I lead the architecture and all the design elements, but I've been also, my secondary role is advisory. My background is in banking, back in those days in international banking, so I've been heavily focused both on a macro asset strategy perspective, as well as industry-specific opportunities within Web3, and I'm very bullish about the RWA scene, especially coming this year. Yeah.
Great. So let's move to our main topic. You know, there are quite many things happening in crypto right now, like possibility of Bitcoin reserve in the United States, ETFs, like Bitcoin adoption growing all around the world, especially here in Dubai, many options to use crypto in the real life. And my first question is, what are the advantages of RWA and why do we really need it? So let's discuss it. What is the role of RWA in this world of crypto, guys?
I guess that's the basest and the most surface things what RWA is like, you know. So RWA is all about tokenization. And when we talk about tokenization, so tokenization is like connecting things globally, right? Because see, tokenization cannot be region specific. So if it is region specific, we are anyways doing very well in the public ledgers like TLTs and all. So the whole concept of tokenization is bringing liquidity to the market anyways, like the way the market is functioning right now, like all these illiquid things in the market. We have talk about arts or talk about debts and the treasuries and the bonds. They are very illiquid, but I guess they have the potential to bring a lot of liquidity to the market, right? So the main purpose is to bring those kind of illiquid elements into the market where all these people, all this population, they can collectively invest or maybe like be a part of that revolution, right? So somebody like, so I'm from India, right? So in India, what we have is like, if suppose somebody wants to invest into a real estate, so we have many compliances that we have to go through, right? And it takes a lot of time. It takes years or maybe months and all those things. So tokenization makes it all easy, all about it.
Can I challenge you on that? Because when you're talking about assets that exist, let's call it in the real world, like a stock or gold or real estate, even if you tokenize those assets, i.e. you're just applying blockchain technology to those assets, does not escape you from existing regulation or even regulation going forward. So you saying that, you know, bringing it on chain means it's going to make it more available to people everywhere is actually a fallacy, because you're still going to be looped into existing regulation that prevents you from doing certain things today.
So see, that is purely, I mean, there is no escape out of it. Hello? Yeah. So see, there is no escape, right, at all. So if we talk about tokenization going ahead, regularities, we cannot just keep it aside eventually. But there is a medium that, you know, we have to follow that, because see, if we talk about auditings and all everything, about the existence, the real existence of the assets or the tokens that we are about to tokenize, right? So that's but obvious, like, you know, all these authorities or the governance, they have to come in and they have to help and they have to foster the blockchain. Because see, tokenization is not at all making things decentralized or making things, you know, solely owning by users. It's just all about, I guess, making things easier to access to the public, right? And yeah, please.
I think there's a middle way in there, and to your point, Katie, I agree 100%. You don't kind of skip the compliance part. And the guy, Ved's trying to make a point that the compliance can be programmable and can be built into the smart contracts. Right. But to your question, Alex, RWA is not a new shiny thing, right? It's the need of the hour. You look at the global debt. Right now, it's $350 trillion and rising every single day. Central banks are printing money left, right, center, and without credibility. You look at the retail audience, which is now trying to look at options on how to kind of squeeze out every single, I'd say, non-traditional asset that's out there that's not reaching out to the masses. And I think RWA is a medium to do that. So I'm a big fan of doing analogies, right? It's easier for people to understand. So think of a city. I'll take an example of Cape Town. Cape Town's losing all its water, right? RWAs is similar to that, where every single spring out there, and think of these springs as different asset classes, they are building pipes around these springs and allowing those water flows to come from different mediums for the public to access it. So RWA, I think, is just an extension of the technology, and the technology allows us to bring and build, I'd say, compliant frameworks with programmable compliance built into the smart contracts and make it available to the general public. So I think it's the need of the hour with that debt piling on.
Just to highlight more from my background in architecture, I think RWAs and tokenization has technological advantages over the traditional assets. For example, it has the intrinsic ability to create a secondary market, even of compliant players, where by the technology and faster settlement. So, you think about the traditional world, and especially in situations where you're talking about overseas investors, you have a situation where you need multi-days of handovers of documents, sometimes physical, depending on what kind of compliance you're dealing with. And by the time you actually access the asset, perhaps before you even access the asset, you still need to do KYC over your minimum criteria to even look at the opportunity. So you have multi-day process here, but if you have a secondary market of KYC, even if it's walled garden, it's faster, and the tokenization process creates secondaries, and the secondaries create liquidity. So then there's a liquidity premium, even in a compliant way. And because of fast finalities of blockchains, it bridges those barriers, and it's multi-jurisdictional. It doesn't depend on the fast system of Singapore operates same day, but some other jurisdiction system operates one day, and then the slowest of all parties is how fast your transaction. But if you're on the same network, everything works.
Yeah, I'm going to speak to that point and echo it. I don't usually like agreeing with people, but I am going to agree with you. But I'm going to answer this from a slightly different perspective because it's a really big question. Like, what are the advantages of it? And really, it depends who you are and where you sit in the world. So as a retail trader sitting in Brazil, for example, it is nigh on impossible for me to access the US stock exchange. I have to set up a company in the US to then be able to trade out of that company. If I can just go and buy NVIDIA on chain tomorrow with USDC, I've instantly just accessed a whole set of capital markets that were previously locked out to me. Equally, if I'm sat in Southeast Asia, I no longer have to wake up at 2 o'clock or Australia, I no longer have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go and trade the US Open. So from a 24/7 perspective, it's a lot easier for me to trade in and out or manage the risk of my portfolio if I'm trading on chain versus trying to log in traditionally to those traditional venues. And then thirdly, from an institutional perspective, there are a couple of reasons why I would go for a tokenized asset. And these are reasons that, problems that we're actually solving as Swarm today. So we have a group of global brokers. So they sit in the US, they sit in London, they sit in Cape Town, they sit in Thailand. And they all have to have different logins for different trading venues to trade stocks. They're not able to just simply transfer that stock over to each other. So they've come to us and said, right, how do we build a global liquidity network that sits on chain where we can just easily move these values around at any time? So that is a real world example of how real world assets are being used, and we're actually solving a problem.
Great. But I want to concentrate the question on a different angle. Right now in the crypto market, we have a challenge. Bitcoin dominates everything, and altcoin market sucks at the moment, and nobody see where is the next step for other industries inside of crypto market. So. For sure, RWA have a huge potential, but are we going to be big than Bitcoin? So can RWA challenge Bitcoin and be bigger? Let's discuss this.
So I guess, RWA is very much correlated to the crypto market anyways, right? That's completely how it goes all about. But here, I guess we're talking about the technological advancement. right? And I guess I am sorry, I may be wrong, but I don't agree to the fact that we attach RWA the technological part to the the how market role how this market plays the role, right? Because see, anyways, like I know. See, when we talk about RWA, it is all about it's the fallacy in the market. Like it's all about the blockchain, the infrastructures and all everything. Eventually, yes, that's a token that has to be traded, right? And that's how people would gain that trust. But I guess that's a very short-lived. And with time, with the technological advancement, I guess there will be a time where there will be, this market will be a little different. RWA will become little, good enough to trust in the market. So yeah, that's how things goes. Like probably.
I think that's a bit, I don't think the question's quite the right question. It's a bit like asking, use cases of the internet, is e-commerce going to be bigger than social media? They're just different use cases. In the same way, Bitcoin is one extrapolation of cryptography. In the same way that tokenizing NVIDIA or Apple or MicroStrategy is another use case. You're going to have people that come into this, into the blockchain world who have never touched Bitcoin before, but are interested in understanding how to lend against tokenized gold. In the same way, you'll have people trading pumpkin meme coins who never even want to touch a tokenized treasury.
I just wanted to offer to measure the importance of RWA in comparison with Bitcoin or any other industries inside of crypto market.
No, I think I'd have to say yes to this. It does hold a significant advantage, and that's something they're seeing in numbers, right? I like to play by numbers. There's already people like Ondo and people who are tokenizing treasuries have done 1.5 billion and above in terms of tokenizing real-world treasuries. There's been traditional players like Maple Finance who have moved their tokenization engine towards tokenizing real-world assets. And the primary reason behind that is the returns, the yields that come out of there, right? So when you talk about traditional DeFi assets, people wanted to kind of go in there because A, you're holding their upside and the yields were really great. But off late, when you see these RWAs coming to picture and the yields ranging between 7 to 12%, I think the only way is up from there. So the short answer is yes. And I think this is the market shift that you're going to see in the next couple of years.
Oh, I will jump in from my insights from a macro perspective of what I think is going on, right? So I think, yes, this Bitcoin dominance issue, right, is also the same issue with gold today, where we see a significant outperformance of this. And we also see the relationships that are traditionally about growth weakness and US exceptionalism is not working out right now. What I mean by that is the traditional relationships of treasury yields should come down when we are facing recessionary risk. That's not the case. So with all this combination, what we see in the Trump administration is they think that stablecoins and the stablecoin bill is the way to address the treasury issuance position. In other words, like companies like Ondo and tokenization of treasuries, of US treasuries, is going to be the administration's strategic interest through stablecoins. So what's the market capitalization of US treasuries? That's 30 plus trillion, right? That's 30x from where Bitcoin is today, right? So what's the opportunity?
And you're only looking at the existing treasuries, right? There are a lot of assets out there that will benefit from RWA tokenization.
Yeah. To add to that, servicing the interest on the 30 trillion is already growing the 30 trillion. So this is a total addressable market that's expanding. And this year is the year where the administration wants to address the debt issue, right? So through the stablecoins.
On that, different opinion. I mean, if you're waiting for US administration to come up with solutions, I think you'll have to wait till the next financial crisis. But that's just purely a personal opinion.
Yeah, that's huge for sure. Guys, we already started to discuss it because for real world asset, regulation is really important. So let's concentrate on it. Like, what are the best countries? Which legal framework is the best for RWA, and what are the user cases? Like, what was already realized? Let's discuss it. Maybe someone in the audience wants to run their own RWA project. So let's give some advice.
Short answer, none of them. There is no provision for tokenized real
I
world
disagree
assets.
there.
Disagree with me, go on.
Yeah, so I disagree there. I think we are sitting in the best country to do innovation.
Exactly.
We've seen political...
In Dubai?
In UAE.
UAE,
So a lot of people, and a lot of people think Dubai is the place, but UAE is 7 Emirates. I represent one of them. But Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, all these Emirates are leading the innovation that's happening in the space. And I come from a country, and I've served multiple governments across the globe, where the regulations are an extension of the political agenda of the country. What I mean by that is, there's a political environment, and people, the regulators are chasing the political environment, whereas in the UAE, we are always chasing innovation. We are always chasing the industry's best practices. And that's the reason why the country that we are sitting in today is leading it. And Vara has shown that recently by allowing companies like TokenVest, giving them a license to kind of tokenize real-world assets. And there are a lot of companies who are following this suite. But yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, because as much as there is... you're making space for regulation here, and you're definitely attracting some talent, but the UAE notoriously is not a market leader when it comes to tier 1 jurisdiction for regulation. Those kind of places are like Singapore, Europe, the US. America does chase innovation, but it also wants to preserve the dominance of the USD, and that's why it hasn't moved out on crypto. It's only moving on stable coins now. In MiCA, for example, you have provision for crypto assets, but no one has real provision for real-world assets. In Switzerland, if you issue natively on the blockchain, then they have provision for those assets. But if you do a receipt token, which is how we are tokenizing real-world assets, i.e., we go to traditional exchanges, we'll go to the New York Stock Exchange, we'll buy Apple stock, we will hold that in institutional custody in a German bank, and then we issue a token that pertains one-for-one to that asset sat in custody. There is currently no regulation anywhere in the world that makes provision for trading those assets, and crucially, it's all about margin requirement for holding those positions. In ESMA, the European regulator, if you hold crypto assets today, you have to put up 1,250% of margin against your position. Why on earth would I go for a tokenized version of Apple when if I hold it on my balance sheet in the traditional way, it's going to be much more capital efficient? So that is what's holding people back from moving into this space.
Please.
Yeah, so see, I'm not a legal person, first of all, so maybe on a back foot there.
And
but
I'm not a UAE person, so you can educate me.
So very honestly, see, when the question started out, which is the jurisdiction which is best for RWA tokenization,
Right.
and the answer was based on the fact that we have a direct channel to speak to the regulators, the government, in the country that we are sitting in.
True.
And that allows us to work on the challenges that you say on a speed that's 10x against any other jurisdiction out there in the world. If there are problems, and we're happy to document these problems, take it to the office, and we can come up with solutions at a 10x speed than anywhere else in the world. See, again, we are working in a space that that changes very quickly, that needs innovation and regulations very quickly. And my answer was purely based on the fact that the governments and the regulators out here are chasing or are working hand in hand with the regulation, with the innovation, and regulations allow those builders with multiple advantages. Happy to kind of have a detailed chat on that, but yep, I mean, we'll have a chat about Vara regulations.
So I would just add on to this. Yeah, that's completely, we completely agree to. So as of now, there is no current authority, maybe like, just coming directly and allowing each and everything. But are we trying to forget or ignore Hong Kong? I guess Hong Kong is doing really good in like, especially in last 6-7 months or 1 year, what they are trying to, bring like the previous question was all about Bitcoin and the market dominance, right? Again, so I guess that market was completely sustained by Hong Kong's embracement of the crypto, right? So I guess Hong Kong is the country which is actually working on a very good framework, and I know. So let's talk about Switzerland as well. In 2020, they have already tested their pilot program on DLT base. That was, because so they were completely into the tokenization of assets. So I guess, we cannot ignore these two countries for a better environment to have RWA going on.
Yeah, I guess just the problem with pilot programs or with sandboxes, apart from the one that exists in the FCA right now in the UK, is that it's all dummy trades. There's no real volume that's put through on those. So that's the issue with having pilot programs. They seemingly look progressive, but not too much comes out of it as a result. But one thing can I just point out is there is existing regulation that does help feed into some of this. Like a lot of it, yes, I do accept that needs specific set of rules and governance to go with it, but there are existing regulations that can cover it. For example, moving over from the institutional side to retail side, if you want to sell a product to retail, it has to have a prospectus. An existing EU prospectus regulation actually covers these tokens as well. So Swarm, we have a prospectus in the EU issued out of Liechtenstein, tiny country in Germany. It's only about 30 miles long, has a McDonald's and a load of cows. That actually does, fun fact, that actually does cover us being able to sell these assets directly to retail traders anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I just want to cover the kind of like overview of conversations here, and my perspective is, based on that question, is I believe it's a progressive adoption, just like any other industry. Fintech first started out with a certain group of customers that are underserved, and then move up the quality ladder. I think RWA starts with stable coins, and then moves up the quality ladder. And so stable coins, to me, if you hold a self-custody wallet with USDT or USDC, my brain thinks, from my banking background, that's an offshore bank account, right? Because you're holding this on a it's not the same thing legally, but it feels the same way in terms of how your demographic you're structuring with. It moves up the quality ladder, and it depends on which areas you want to distribute these assets as well. So are you distributing these assets to high qualified individuals who can get access anywhere? Or are you looking at the domestic retail market? Oh, that's the hardest. And so I would say it's a progressive evolvement. At the same time, the jurisdictions that are competing are also in this bind. This is from the macro perspective, right? Where state actors now are not really talking eye to eye. We see tariffs, we see these situations, and what's going to be the reserve that's backing their assets? Looking like gold. It's no longer US treasuries. So the situation is breaking down, and then they need new distribution partners as an administration, and they're going down towards like new areas to distribute, and then they will change the regulations. So that's why I'm saying like there's always this state actor game theory thing that's going on. And then there's you're as a specific business thinking who you should distribute, and most likely you're just moving up the quality ladder.
Yeah, I want to discuss with Amit. I want to ask you, like as soon as we are in UAE, and for sure you know a lot of things what are happening here, could you tell us like what are interesting cases with real world assets tokenized here in the Emirates? Do you know some examples?
So I named one of them. The company is called Tokenized, who are now tokenizing real estate out here. They're one of the first VARA licensed real estate tokenization players. I think on the previous panel, somebody was talking about regulations giving trust to people, because what if this guy does wrong? There'll be somebody coming to kind of arrest you, put cuffs on you. So that's one, and I've also recently learned that DLD, which is Department of Land in UAE, has allowed a public program to a private company, a private program to a company to tokenize real world assets. Again, not allowed to speak a lot on the subject, but a lot of things are moving in Ras Al Khaimah as well, where we have a lot of good things happening in the next couple of years. We are seeing the GDP growth at a really good speed and the right builders coming to us. In the last year alone, we have onboarded about 600 plus builders in the space who are coming to us, asking for solutions, asking for, I'd say, bank accounts, asking for payment rails. And what we are doing is creating an ecosystem for all the developers in the space to come to us, and we, as I said, we hear them out. We create solutions for them where the innovation needs those solutions for these people to go to market. And yeah, keep an ear out and you will see more things coming out in the next few months.
Yeah, for sure, UAE is big in terms of tokenization. But now I want to ask Katie, like you have some crazy examples of tokenization in your company. Like you mentioned, you are tokenizing MicroStrategy stocks, also gold. It's so interesting to discuss it. Could you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so we started with tokenized treasuries, so 5% yield. Then we moved on to 9 different stocks from the S&P 500. We've actually got a really unique regulatory process where it takes us about 4 days to add new stocks. So theoretically, we could bring the entire stock market on-chain in a matter of weeks if we wanted to. Whether there's going to be liquidity is another question. But so we have MicroStrategy, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Intel, all the big names. And then recently we moved on to gold. So the interesting thing about gold, though, is not only is it achieving even more all-time highs, I think it's trading at about 3.5K now. 2.5, sorry, got that very wrong. It's not just simply about token issuance, it's about what you can then do with those assets as a result. So we've solved token issuance, both for retail and institutional, but now you can actually trade those tokens using the decentralized OTC infrastructure that we've built out. And then more interestingly, you can now lend against those tokens as well. So for example, I hold a gold position and perhaps I want to go and buy more gold. I could loot gold. I can do that by lending against it on DeFi. It's all smart contract based. I can borrow at a 70% loan to value. I can even change that amount based on the fact that gold is such a stable collateral. I could even borrow 90% against it because it's so stable. I mean, where else in DeFi are you able to borrow against, an 80% or 90% loan to value? It just doesn't exist because it's too volatile. So I think the next phase of tokenization is not just about token issuance and coming up with these crazy ideas of what you can bring on chain, but it's what you can actually then do with it. And then finally, just to finish off, we've actually, with the trading infrastructure we've built, which again, all smart contract based, all decentralized, we're then able to go and build out custom marketplaces for any industry. So your example around the real estate piece, you might be able to issue those tokens, but then how do you then transfer those values around? You would come to us and you could build your own marketplace using our liquidity infrastructure. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see what people are actually going to be building out with that next.
Yeah, exciting examples. Yeah, I already wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, right? So one
sure.
of the benefits of RWA, right, from a perspective of a treasury, a large treasury on-chain, is the ability to have what we call non-correlated asset returns, right? So if you think of it as an asset manager, if everything is crypto, then everything follows this 4-year cycle, and this industry attracts capital and then leaves capital constantly, and any hedge fund manager would think about it in very short-term ways. And this has been the history of the entire industry for the last 10 years. I think RWA actually solves that, because when you bring these assets with alternative return profiles on chain, and you put that into the entire portfolio of a Web3 ecosystem, then you actually have situations like, for example, real estate in Dubai. There is a correlation between that and oil. And oil is correlated to inflation, and inflation is inversely correlated to crypto prices. So supposedly, in theory, right? So you can then think about wait, where we're trying to build is we're building Web3 businesses that are truly sustainable and grow. And do we really want the roller coaster volatility when we're trying to build that business, right? So I think that's also part of the maturity of the Web3 industry.
can you now tell me how can we tokenize assets using your Mantle network? Would be very interesting to know.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I think all the discussions here, right, are very complicated, right? Where they depend on just the jurisdictions, depend on the legal innovations, and so we always partner. The latest we did was we partnered to do a fund with Securitize. It's a crypto major fund, but its participation is family offices. They don't actually touch anything on chain, but the tokenization ends up on chain. TVL comes on chain. Another opportunity we worked with is tokenized deposits. So we work with a Swiss regulated partner. And very soon this week, we will announce that we have a retail type banking use case that will have tokenized deposits as well. And we're hoping to connect that to our DeFi ecosystem so that you then can tap into these assets real world, but you're just a swap away from anything in crypto. And I think that's what I'm trying to tap into, like from an investor lens, right? Correlation of assets is actually who holds the assets. Like there's a correlation between Tesla and like a crypto. Why is that so? Well, guess who's shilling the same stuff, right? It's the same demographic. So once you see institutional investors are holding the same things alongside crypto assets, then where would the correlations go? Would it become more volatile or would it be more stable? And I hope that RWA represents that for the ecosystem.
Great. Now, same question to you, but like, yeah, you mentioned that you run layer 1, right? So, yeah, maybe some user cases of real-world asset tokenized on your network.
See, when we talk about tokenization, I think the first and foremost thing what we should look out for the infra, right? Do we have that kind of infra which is very much scalable and, we talk about the finality, we talk about the security. Do we have that kind of infra, right? Because see, it is all about the global connection, right? All around, right? So let's talk about all other, legacy layer ones that we have already seen and they are already improvising on themselves. Talk about Ethereum. So yeah, eventually, yes, they gave us a very good platform, but we came across a lot of issues with Ethereum about the gas fee skyrocketing, right? Again, are those platforms really user-friendly to the developers or the enterprises to use them? So I guess that's where we come, right? Because see, we started in 2020 where CBDCs were a great hype, right? So if we talk about CBDCs, yeah, that's a great concept, obviously. That's a hype. Eventually, that will be innovated, because see, hype, innovation happens through hype only. But the problem is that to bring tokenization into the real world, globally, I guess infrastructure is one thing which was always overlooked, right? Because initially people just focused on the crypto market, how the crypto is functioning. Nobody ever thought about that these kind of things can happen to the blockchain. So what Kaanch does is that, so we have improvised our architecture in that way that we are the fastest L1 in the market right now. We have a throughput of 1.4 million TPS along with 0.8 second finality. And we have approx 3,600 nodes globally, strategically located worldwide, right? And that what brings us the security in. And yes, that's what needed. And probably with time, everything has to be tokenized. So everything needs a good infra, right? That's there, yeah.
Thank you. Now I have a bit philosophical question. Recently, Larry Fink, BlackRock, they mentioned that RWA is very hot narrative. They are big into it, and everything is going to be tokenized. It's like a trend, and maybe even the air could be possibly tokenized and being sold or charged for using. So there is a kind of a theory everything is going to be tokenized, land, water, air, and nothing will belong to people, and you'll have to pay rent for everything. Is it a kind of a real threat for us, or it's a kind of advantage to be part or co-own some cool assets? What do you think about it, guys?
I think it's a bit of a stretch to say we're going to be charged for air. I think Larry Fink has a small agenda in that he wants to weaken the sell side. So if you start bringing everything on chain, you instantly get so many more token issuers and you move that away from banks. So I think when he's talking about what he wants to tokenize, it's mainly pertaining to financial products. To answer your question, yes, I think there can be some really cool things that you can build out as a result of tokenization. And interestingly, the composability that you can then, that then follows on from tokenizing those assets and what you can build. I mean, you know, you could put a tokenized version of Doge, you could do Twitter or X, and you could do Tesla, and suddenly you've got an Elon Musk ETF sitting in one pool. So it's really cool, like the possibilities of what you can build as a result of bringing these things on chain is actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I agree with that this time. And to be honest, I think we have to look at what is the problem this tokenization is trying to solve. And is there a solution chasing the problem or a problem chasing the solution? So with regards to RWAs, I think the primary problem is squeezing out that liquidity out of all the assets which are not easily distributed. And I think that's the problem that will be sold out first. In between somewhere, we are in a very innovative industry, right? So people might tokenize air, people might tokenize, the lights, for example. I'm just taking a random name. But the first and the foremost problem is tokenizing those assets which are sitting out there to contribute to the debt that's increasing on a regular basis. And I think that's a requirement, that's a problem needed to be solved. And with RWAs and the infrastructure, with all the great developments happening, I think we are building a new form of Wall Street, and it's just not an addition to Wall Street with RWA tokenization. What we are doing is a faster, safer, quicker way of doing assets, be it bonds, be it treasuries, be it real-world assets. But real-world assets will lead the charge because they'll directly contribute back to the liquidity from the assets that are not easily, I'd say, distributable.
Actually, I've just remembered an example of someone I met in Dubai when I was here last time, and he had a vape, and every time he's smoked. Do you smoke a vape? I don't know. I just smoke normal cigarettes. But every time he took a puff, he would then earn points, which would then generate into tokens. And I was like, this is the coolest thing
That's
ever.
innovation. You're killing your body and you're earning
So
tokens.
technically, he did kind of tokenize air.
A great example.
So basically, your lungs rather. Yeah.
I would say realistically that vision is like a very long-term vision. It does make sense in the very long term, but I think in the short term, what it looks like is, the biggest. My view is the biggest problem in RWAs is redeemability, which is the same problem even if it was a market even the GLD token on as an ETF construction, if there's an issue of redeemability. So and that's not even RWAs and tokenization. So I think that piece needs to be solved, and I suspect where it gets solved, looking at the institutional adoption, is the balance sheets of these institutions. The redeemability comes from the fact that these institutions are too big to fail, and they will be part of the state actor machine to guarantee the redeemability of the real RWAs. And I think that's the kind of like the piece that I'm hoping for, looking for this year. Looking forward to like banks, subsidiaries becoming stablecoin issuers. Like when their balance sheet is placed on the line for the redeemability of the assets, when they're too big to fail and they become part of the state machine, that's when you start the adoption. And technology is just a part of it. We make things better, faster, more efficient. But there's always this key moment in adoption that we're waiting for. I think it's this year.
Anything to add?
I kind of agree with what Joseph has already said, right? And see, eventually nothing happens in just one day. Like everything takes time, and probably I guess we have to keep that patience in us. Like probably for next down the line, 10 years or 5 years or 7 years, we'll eventually see something out of this word called tokenization, and that's going to be really great for everybody. And yes, we have a great builders here already. The Mantle is doing great work, I guess, and these people keep on doing it. Also, we are providing a great infra anyways, right? You know, eventually in the future down the line, many more will come, and there will be auditings and regularization. Then that would definitely push tokenization to the upscale and high. That's how it is. So, but yes, each and everybody has to keep that faith alive. And see, things take time to get mature, right? Nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens overnight. That's for true. And fairly, something like tokenization or a blockchain, which is very new, it will take some time to get mature. And yeah, that's it. That's how it is, right?
Yeah, our time is rapidly running out. Maybe we can have like one question from the audience if someone wants to ask. Yeah, yes, please. I can give you a mic. Come here.
I have two questions, one for Amit and other one for Katie. For Amit, my question is, can you enlighten us more about the token taxonomy framework of UAE government? And for Katie, have you come across any prepaid rental NFTs? Prepaid rental NFTs from the perspective of RWA space?
What, for air?
No.
No, I'm
Prepaid
joking.
rental NFTs, housing, mass consumption item.
No, the simple answer is no, I have not.
Good question, right? So we've been working on a taxonomy right now, and I speak for RACTAO, not for the UAE. I don't have an immediate answer yet, and I'm not allowed to speak anything beyond that. But yeah, I think we can connect in person, and I can keep you updated. But that's where I'll stop.
I think he's about to move to UAE, so he is very much like.
We can definitely have a chat on what the progression's been, but again, for anything public, we'll have to wait.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. It was a very interesting discussion. And yeah, thank you all for participating in it. Yeah.